fans and the competitors as well, Larry.
Well, these guys actually qualified faster because the cars are lighter in weight than the Grand National cars. And here is the starting lineup for tonight's late model sportsman event here at Bristol International Raceway. In row number 1, Ron Bouchard and Brad Teague, as Jack just told you. A couple of drivers who have come from different worlds. In row 2, Joe Ruttman, Grand National driver, and Brett, not Jeff, Bodine, a late model sportsman man. In row number 3 on the inside, Larry Pollard, a rookie in this type of racing this year, and Rick Mast, the man who has a fistful of second places. In row number 4, Mike Porter, kind of a robust guy, and on the outside, another late model sportsman regular, Kenny Burks. In row number 5, the Iron Man, Jack Ingram. He won last week at Milwaukee, and his points rival on the outside, Jimmy Hensley. In row number 6, from the ASA ranks, driving a V6, Butch Miller, and on the outside, another regular down here in the South, Bob Shreves. Row number 7 on the inside, a late model sportsman veteran, Tommy Houston, and Ed Barrier, a man who has graduated from other types of racing. In row number 8, Jimmy Lawson from Virginia, and Dave Marcus from North Carolina. Row number 9, Charlie Luck and Larry Pearson, David's son. In row number 10, from hometown here, right close by in Newport, Tennessee, L.D. Ottinger and Ronnie Silver on the outside. Row number 11, Dale Jarrett and Robert Ingram Jr. In row number 12, out of Pennsylvania originally, Joe Kelly and Jeff Hensley. In row 13, it's 25th and 26th position, Rodney Howard and Dickie Linville. And in row 14, brother John Linville and Bosco Lowe. In row number 15, Larry Utzman from the famous Utzman racing family and Joe Thurman, and all by himself in row number 16, Eddie Falk. In just a couple of flicks of the eye here, we will hear the command for "Gentlemen, start your engines." And that will be at the courtesy of the public address announcer here tonight, Eli Gold.
Well, it's about that time, ladies and gentlemen, and for the words we've been waiting for, the 1979 late model sportsman national champion, Gene Glover.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
The fellow who gave the command to start engines, Larry, was Gene Glover, the 1979-78 late model sportsman champion from just down the road in Kingsport, Tennessee. His son, Tony Glover, is the crew chief on the Joe Ruttman Grand National car. I think my hat's off to the Speedway for allowing Gene to come by and utter those words.
A little change in the starting lineup. Billy Hogan in car number 73. Billy from Troy, North Carolina, has joined the starting field as an alternate in place of Eddie Falk, the man from Norfolk, Virginia. Well, as we told you earlier during qualifying, if you were with us, this is a half-mile racetrack, and it's high bank. Now, the degree of banking here, I guess it depends on whom you talk to. It's 35 degrees plus. Well, they say 36. The straightaway's 800 very symmetrical feet in length, and the turn's 600 feet and about 4 stories tall. It's a 5.33-mile oval, to be exact.
All the straightaway. As you exit the corners and enter the corners, you're basically taking part of the straightaway. So I think that the numbers would read, the corners would be even longer than they are on the screen that you just saw. The Butch Miller car was unable to start, Larry. They had to push the car off to the side, and there he's sitting down. They've got the hood up on the car trying to get it going.
Now, Butch is running one of those, I guess you'd call it experimental V6s. There you see the field kind of inching its way around turns 3 and turns 4. Turn 3 at the right-hand side of your screen and turn 4 on the left-hand side. And Butch Miller, of course, he wanted to perform well. This is not an experimental year for them, but they're working on something. They got a project going. They think that the V6 engine is part of the future, and they would like to get a leg up on the competition.
Well, there's no doubt that the V6 is part of the future, and there's a lot of people that's been trying to get something going. Ron Bouchard, who's on the pole with the V6 tonight, has been trying all year to run that V6, and he just can't get it to live.
Now, let me give you a little hint. If you are a marginal race fan and just been clicking the dials around and trying to find something to watch tonight, and you don't know whether or not you want to watch a race, stay with us, because this kind of racing is something special. And Benny, I love Grand National stock car racing. I really do. But this kind of racing can be very, very exciting.
It is going to be exciting. As we mentioned a moment ago, this is the springboard. Brad Teague would love to do this.
Pace cars dip to the infield, dip to the pit road. Here comes Ron Bouchard bringing the field around, and the late model sportsman race is underway. Ron Bouchard takes a little bit of the advantage, but late model sportsman regular Brad Teague on the high side, and somebody's losing parts as they go through turn 1 and turn 2. Down the backstretch, it's still Teague. Ron Bouchard runs in second. cars may be lighter in weight than Grand National stock cars, but I'll tell you, when 30-plus of them thunder into life, they don't sound like they're lighter in weight, Benny.
No, they sound just as ferocious as the Grand National cars. And Brad Teague really got a good jump on the start of this race.
Boy, I just can't tell you. And somebody has met with the outside Armco, and that's Joe Thurman, a former national champion, yellow flag coming out. And that gives you an idea of how quickly things can happen on this racetrack. There you see Thurman, the man from Rocky Mount, North Carolina, coasting into the pit area, and it may look like a relatively minor incident, but there is probably a lot of structural damage underneath that race car. He got both wheels when he just made a slight mistake and got out of control in turns 3 and 4.
It looks like something happened to the right rear. The way that the quarter panel is rolled under behind the right rear tire, it looks as though he might have blew that tire, and a piece of the rubber came up and knocked the quarter panel up. But, you know, here he's very fortunate that he was the only car involved in the accident, because at Bristol, if there's an accident in front of you, someone said, if you can see a wreck, you're in it.
Absolutely. We only completed 2 laps under green, so this is kind of a premature break that all of them didn't really expect, but maybe a welcome one. The tension of the beginning of the race is over. We'll be back with the restart of this race after these words. This way where this race has been brought not to a halt, but the proceedings have been slowed here on lap number 4 when Joe Thurman got into the fence, and Jack Arute is down there now.
And Joe Thurman has had a tough night tonight. Only 2 laps. Joe, what happened to the race car?
Well, it was going down the backstretch, and something in the steering sector broke, and we had a rush job getting the car ready to go at the last minute, and I just didn't get a time to check everything out, but luckily nobody was hurt, and I didn't cause anybody else any problems.
Well, he'll watch the rest of this race from the sideline, but we're back to green right now.
Brad Teague bringing the field around very slowly, but when the green flag flickered, Mr. Teague was ready to go. Now, he has not won a race in 1985. We saw him perform very well on ESPN earlier this year, and I guarantee you, this is no fake. He is a threat to win.
He is a threat to win. Ron Bouchard is having trouble on the restarts, on the start of the race. I really don't know what the problem is, but he hasn't gotten a good start either time.
I can't express to you how quickly things happen on a high-banked half-mile racetrack. All of a sudden, you turn around and 2 laps have gone by. Things go by very quickly. We are already into lap number 7 of this race, and they are just sailing around. It will be a 200-lap, 100-mile race. Now, depending on whether or not the caution flags flutter on a regular basis during this race, they might, but I doubt it, they might be able to go the distance on 1 load of fuel. But, Benny, I anticipate more caution.
There would probably be some caution flags, and if they do, I think these drivers will go in and change some tires. Now, Ron Bouchard has gotten his car going right now. He's up challenging Brad Teague for the lead.
Ron Bouchard is moving in, and boy, is he bottoming out as he goes into those corners.
You know, we talked about the sparks flying, and people wonder what that is. You're exactly right, Larry. These cars are bottoming out. That's the exhaust and the things on the underside of the car hitting the racetrack. The bump, there is some bumps that cause it. Bouchard hasn't, he thought he was going to look inside there.
Boy, he is really pressuring him now. Again, it's no surprise they set these cars up. It's kind of a balance. And there goes Bouchard to the inside of Teague coming out of turn number 2 down the backstretch, and Teague out-horsepowers him on this lap. But Bouchard is really handling in the corners. Look at him move in.
Boy, he really is. He's getting off that turn very, very well.
Now, as we told you, the crews expect the cars to bottom out just a little bit, and the game here is to set these cars up so that they come as close to the bottom as often as possible around the racetrack, because the lower that center of gravity is, more often than not, the smoother the car runs and the faster you can. You know, built low to the ground for speed. That's the slogan.
That's the slogan. Exactly right.
14 laps down, and Brad Teague continues to fend off the challenges of Ron Bouchard, and here comes the Ironman. Jack Ingram is on the move.
He just took Kenny Burks coming off turn 2.
You know, Ingram amazes me. There are few races that he'll charge out in front early, but more often than not, he kind of cruises. Bouchard, by the way, is still threatening Teague, and there's Bouchard getting a wheel in this time on the straightaway, and that could mean curtains for Brad Teague. Bouchard hasn't been there on the straightaway yet.
They are side by side. What an exciting race.
Maybe 100 miles an hour through the corners. Now accelerate rapidly. 110, 115, 120, 125, 30, maybe 135. Now touch the brakes. Make sure they're there. Here comes Bouchard down to the inside, back down to 100 miles an hour. Now back up to 130 right away.
Brad Teague just will not give it up. Oh, he almost spun it going in turn 1, Larry.
Brad Teague trying to hold on for all he is worth, and there's Joe Ruttman moving underneath, and that will really hurt Teague for the next couple of laps because he loses momentum, and also abuses that right rear tire. Bouchard right now temporarily with a clear track. Now, you'll see it on the replay. Here's Teague on the outside. He's being pressured by Bouchard. Teague says, hey, this is a high-banked racetrack.
I'm going to go in real hard. And sideways the car goes. Does a great job saving the car, but he has to slow down to save it. And Joe Ruttman goes along by him, as well as Ron Bouchard.
Sitting there watching the thrill of his life, at least in this race so far, is Joe Ruttman. And, you know, they're going to be in heavy traffic all night long because we started in this race 30 cars, and already here, with less than 25 laps completed, the leaders have moved around and are already in the slower traffic. Now, one of the keys to being successful here at Bristol, because it's so treacherous, or it can be, is staying out of trouble. And Ron Bouchard is a guy that we thought might be up front when this race started. We asked him about it. Oh, wow. Wow. A major crash here on the front stretch involving the two leaders. Joe Ruttman hit the inside wall very hard. Ron Bouchard came off of turn number 4. There were 3 or 4 cars already sitting sideways on the front stretch. Ron Bouchard went in very hard. He has not exited the race car yet. Joe Ruttman, a tremendous thud into the inside concrete here, bordering the pit wall. Also involved in that is Dickie Linville in car number 43, Rick Mass. There is Larry Utzman removing his helmet. And again, we repeat, some concern right now for Joe Ruttman and Ron Bouchard. They were running very quickly up front. A couple guys in the back of the pack got in trouble. And just in front of the leaders as they blast. And now Joe is beginning to move around. And boy, that's a good sight. But the leaders were blasting off of turn number 4.
Ron Bouchard is moving around in the car. I can't see Joe's car. I don't.
There were 3 or 4 explosions, 2 or 3 seconds after the crash. Now, here is the leader. We're ISO'd on him as he comes out of turn number 4. Now, the accident has already taken place in front of him. Brown is looking for a place to go. The track is blocked, so he puts it into a slide. You can see him crashing into Linville there. There's Joe Ruttman bouncing off the number 62 car of John Linville and drilling the inside cement. Some tense moments. Rick Mass comes in there. Rick collides with Brett Bodine. So 4 or 5 of the top drivers who expected to dominate this race have been eliminated in a spectacular early race crash. There it is again.
There is a good shot of the accident happening, and Joe Ruttman really nailed John Linville down on the inside. Jackie Root has something from the pits.
Well, we're looking at the accident from this view, gentlemen. It looks like all of the drivers, with the exception of Joe Ruttman, have exited their machines. But Ruttman was moving around, and now he is out and talking to the crew. So it looks like it's some good news. We're going to try and get caught up with Ronnie Bouchard, who's working his way back to his pit area to find out exactly what happened. We've caught up with Ronnie. If we can get him to come back over the wall here. Ronnie! Ronnie! Well, you can say that he's talking to Robert G., that's also the crew chief and the car owner on Brett Bodine's car, who was involved. We'll get more from Bouchard as quick as we can, and we'll come back to you.
Well, some very tense moments and an example of what can happen on a high-banked, half-mile paved racetrack. Everything is sailing along very smoothly, and then suddenly, like a bolt of lightning, major problems on the front stretch.
We finally have caught up with Ron Bouchard, who was right in the middle of that accident. Ronnie, what happened?
Well, I was really in the wrong place at the wrong time, Jackie. It looked like 3 or 4 of the cars that were running in the back got together and tangled up there, and I seen it about the time they hauled it on the radio and tried to get slowed up, and then a bunch of us just got together and turned around and hit the wall.
Well, we're taking a look at it on the monitor right now. What were your thoughts when you were spinning and crashing and literally all was breaking loose there on the start-finish line?
Well, I just couldn't believe it, Jack. You know, as you see, the race car's really hooked up, and once I got her wound up, you know, I just figured I'd take the lead and I'd be able to get away. And, you know, it's just a shame something like that has to happen. It put, you know, 4 or 5 of the good race cars out, and, you know, we just hate it for the fans at home. But I'd just like to say hi to my wife and Chad and Michelle and Tracy, Gene, my mom and dad. I'm all right.
Well, Ron Bouchard's all right. We're going to break loose now and try and find Joe Ruttman because he's back over pit wall now. We'll be back to you momentarily.
Well, there is what's left of Ron Bouchard's V6. The Joe Ruttman car, Benny, I think got the worst of it as we continue to look at Ron's car. All 4 corners of that race car were literally ripped off in this crash, and the car is lying in repose on the inside of the front stretch.
I think that you're right. Joe Ruttman's car is seriously hurt.
Well, the first 5 leaders in this race were involved in this accident, but it appears as though that Brad Teague and Rick Mast were able to survive this. Now, what we do not know yet is whether or not they have stayed on this lead lap with the leaders, who might be, by the way, Larry Pollard, when we come back. Last year in the early stages of the late model sportsman race, the first time these guys have ever been on live primetime television, and it has eliminated at least 4 or 5 perhaps of the drivers who entered this race, and 5 of the lead cars were involved in this accident. Now, it happened out of turn number 4, and we've got another angle here for you to look at, and you can see the entire event unfolding before your very eyes. It starts in the back of the pack where a couple of the cars get together. Now, the leaders will be trailing along behind this pack of cars.
I think that is John and Dickie Linville. I think those are brothers.
And they are already sliding. Now, these are not the leaders.
Back there's the leaders coming up. Now, the leaders are starting to spin right now. Ron Bouchard is starting to spin now.
There he goes hitting the number 25 4-car of Rodney Howard. Here comes Joe Ruttman down on the inside. There you can see sneaking through. Looked like John Linville made. No. There's the number 46.
That's Larry Etzman that got involved in the accident. Mike Porter made it through. And now there's only one lane we can see on the outside of the racetrack. Only one lane that the cars can't go by. Jack Ingram sneaked by. There goes
Tommy
Jimmy
Houston. Hensley and Houston going through.
Yes.
So they escaped that. The late model regulars who were out qualified by many of the Grand National drivers. And there's Joe Ruttman's car we were telling you about earlier. All 4 quarter panels have been damaged to one degree or another. And I think that car is singed badly, Benny.
That car is hurt.
Well, so Joe Ruttman and Ron Bouchard, 2 of the more severe cars in terms of injuries to the race car, damage to the machine in that one, but no injuries to drivers. Now, we had an opportunity earlier tonight to talk to Brett Bodine in one of the caution breaks. We're going to bring him to you, but things happened so quickly we couldn't get back to it. So, Brent, this is Larry up on ESPN. You were almost involved in that incident.
That was a real close one. I got to thank the guys on the crew. They came on the radio, told me that wreck was in front of them, and I got off the brakes and on the brakes over the 4th turn, and that saved me.
You know, Brent, I saw you stop, and you were right in the middle of all those spinning and smoking race cars, but I see no damage in the front end. I think you missed them completely.
Yeah, the only thing that happened to me, Larry, was I got just tapped in the back end by somebody. I thought it would be safer to get over there. I wasn't quite sure where Rodney Bouchard's car was going to end up, so I just kind of pulled over there to the inside and hoped nobody hit me.
Well, more often than not, the place to be here at Bristol is up front, but being in the middle of the pack really paid off this time, didn't it?
Yeah, that's what the guys that lead the race right now, they were all the ones in the middle of the pack and knocked all us front runners here to the back or out of the race, so we got our work cut out for us to get back to the front.
Well, Brett, I think it's between you now and the regular LMS drivers. Who do you think will be your toughest competition?
Well, I look at Jack Ingram, and I think Rick Mast is running real well. It's a little early for me to tell. I haven't run with many of them. I only ran with Bouchard and Ruttman, and we're just going to have to measure them out and see what happens.
Do you know whether or not you lost a lap in that inferno?
No, we didn't lose a lap. We just lost positions. That's all, Larry.
Well, Brett, thank you very much, and good luck for the rest of this race. Hopefully it'll be smoother.
Hopefully. Thank you, Larry.
So we're still under caution flag here at the Bristol International Raceway. They're cleaning up the debris. You can see all the quick dry in the front stretch, a lot of radiator, and even some fuel, I believe, on the front stretch, Benny.
Yes, I saw some gasoline down there a moment ago, and we're very, very fortunate that they didn't get a spark to ignite that fuel, because I saw lots of it on the straightaway a moment ago.
Well, all the cars have been removed. There you see Brad Teague, who led the early stages of this race. We believe he's still on the lead lap with the leaders, but only time will tell. Hopefully we'll be going green without incident in just a few moments here on ESPN.
No matter how things change.
Been watching is this one, Brad Teague in the red and blue number 75. Remember, he led the first couple laps. He's been in and out of the pit every lap with this caution flag. They're performing repairs, and we believe that he's been able to remain on the lead lap with your lead car, Larry Pollard. Jack?
That's precisely the reason why he's coming in and out of the pits, to stay on the lead lap. He's got severe body damage in the back of the car. They've had to take tie wraps, plastic tie wraps, and hold the bumper up. But he's got another major problem, and that's discomfort in the shoulder harness. The last time, and Teague is back onto the pits once again. The last time he came in, they were trying to fix his shoulder harness because he was complaining that it was cutting into his side into his collarbone. They dive to the back again to make sure that everything's secure. You can see where the bumper has been tie wrapped. They're using bungee cords, duct tape like Band-Aids. It's all being used here, hopefully to keep Brad Teague in this race and keep him on the lead lap. This is quick work, gentlemen, down in the pits.
Well, there was a race last week on the mile dirt track in Springfield, Illinois. Bobby Jacks had a crash in qualifying, put duct tape on his race car. Looked kind of like that. You know, he finished second that race, so maybe that bodes well for Brad.
Well, maybe it does. And I tell you what, Brad Teague is going to take everything in the world for him to quit this race because, you know, this is called the Tri-Cities, the Pontiac Dealers Tri-Cities 200. The Tri-Cities is Bristol, Kingsport, and Johnson City, Tennessee. And Brad Teague is from Johnson City. He's only down the road about 30 miles. All of his friends are here watching this race. He isn't going to quit until they make him quit.
Well, Brad Teague continues to duck in and out of the pit area. Hard work going on. I guarantee you this is probably the hardest that they will work all night long. What do you think, Jack?
Well, they're hard-pressed. They want to keep working because another thing that they've done is they wanted to win here so badly that they dropped off the Busch Late Model Sportsman Tour for 2 races. It was very important for them to show well here, so they figured, let's get out of the hunt, the weekly running back and forth, and we'll just concentrate on Bristol, and they've done that for the last 2 weeks. So that's the story. Brad Teague continues to work here. We're under caution here in the Tri-Cities Pontiac 200 at Bristol.
Now, most of the moisture on the track has got quick dry laid down on top of it at this point. And
Test pilot Chuck Yeager for AC Delco.
Had a major crash in the front stretch, and the last 15 or so laps have been run under caution. There you see the top 6 on your screen. A couple of regulars, Jack Ingram and Jimmy Hensley, already showing into the top 6. Now, officially at this point, we have 6 cars out of the race. Bouchard, Ruttman, Rodney Howard, Dickey, and John Linville, and Larry Utzman.
And luckily we can say that all those cars were eliminated because of the accident, but all the drivers are no problem. There's no injuries at all in any of the drivers.
It was a tremendously hard collision here on the front stretch as car after car slammed into almost like a freeway chain reaction crash. There's just nowhere to go when you're blasting off a corner, and you can't see real well. When you're in a turn here, all you see is pavement.
No, that's all you can see because the bank is so high, Larry, that when you try to look ahead, all you can see is the roof of the automobile because the car is in such an angle that you see the roof of the car. And you have to come exit the turn and get on the straightaway before you can really get any visibility in front of the car. And the accident was just off the corner. So as they exit the corner, there the accident was in front of them. They reacted. They tried to stop. We saw Ron Bouchard. He tried to stop, but the car spun. He spun in the accident. Joe Ruttman tried to drive under the accident and almost had it cleared. But one of the cars rolled down, caught him in the rear. He comes around and hits another car head on. And the other cars, the racetrack starts getting blocked. They can't possibly stop. They come off the corner at 100 miles an hour. They can't stop in just a matter of 50 feet. Into the accident they go.
Well, one of the cars that was eliminated in this was a car that I was looking forward to see again, and that was the V6 powered car that Ron Bouchard ran. And it's a shame that they're not having an opportunity tonight to experiment with that car. They were taken off the racetrack for something other than engine problems.
That's exactly right. I would love to see that car one time run 200 laps because when it does, that means that in 1988 or 1989, when Grand National Racing has to go to a V6, then we'll have something to go with.
Well, we had those 6 cars that were eliminated in the crash, and a couple of others have been ducking in and out of the pits. The car number 3 of Mike Porter has lost 6 laps, so there's a lot of scrambling going on right now. And as Jack told you earlier, some of the people are still trying to repair their cars that were damaged in that crash. There you see the 6 cars that were eliminated in the crash, and plus Joe Thurman, who hit the guardrail on his own in about the lap 3 or 4 of this race. But Ruttman, Bouchard, the 2 Linvilles, Howard, and Utzman, as we told you earlier, those involved in the accident. Well, we're scheduled to go 200 laps here, and right now what's going on is they're doing some track maintenance. It's almost like being on a dirt racetrack, Benny. Normally you don't have to do this much work on a paved racetrack, but when you get as much liquid on a speedway, you got to clean it up before you can go on. Now, as we mentioned to you, one of the cars that was eliminated in that accident was the 6-cylinder race car of Ron Bouchard, the V6 race car of Bouchard. And we had hoped that perhaps that car would run well, which would give us an opportunity to talk to the crew to find out exactly what was going on underneath the engine compartment all race long, but that's not going to happen. We may be within 1 lap from restarting this race. The word is beginning to buzz around the NASCAR radios. They are monitoring the situation of the racetrack very carefully. NASCAR officials remain on the front stretch. Benny?
This car that we're seeing on the screen now is Larry Pollard. He moved in this area from the Northwest and was a crewman on Richard Petty's car for a couple of years. He was a crew chief on Richard's car. And last year, he was crew chief on my brother Phil's car. And Anderson Webb decided that he wanted to go into racing, and Late Model Sportsman would be a good place for him to start. He talked to Larry Pollard. Larry went up, put this team together, and he is the driver as well as the crew chief, everything there is on that car. So, and here he is tonight leading the race 8 or 9 months later. He's come a long way.
Larry has not won a race yet. He's ranked 7th in terms of top 10s. He's won about $17,000, and he's ranked 10th in the point standings. Not won a race yet, so this may be his best chance. But that green and white number 11 and that white 00, I think they're going to have something to say, Benny.
They are, and in NASCAR racing, these cars are able to have a double file restart. So we see Rick Mast pulling up on the inside, trying to get one of his laps back right away from Larry Pollard.
Now for Rick Mast, we're anticipating green flag. Remember, every lap is like the last lap. Mast has got to get around and hope for another yellow flag. Green flag is out.
He has position on Larry and passes him going down in turn 1.
Now remember, Rick Mast leads the parade, but he's actually at the tail. He is 1 lap down. Well, now he's on the same lap with the leaders, but he has the entire length of the track to catch back up. Now, the red car, which we did not anticipate in any way, shape, or form, that's a guy you've raced against a number of times. That's Marcus.
Dave Marcus, and he runs very well at this racetrack. And he tried to get underneath Larry Pollard coming off turn 4.
Dave Marcus, who is at best a sometimes competitor in late model sportsman racing. He certainly has not won a race so far in 1985. As a matter of fact, it's been a long time. We checked our stats. He may not have ever won a late model sportsman race, Benny.
I don't know if he's won a NASCAR late model sportsman race or not. Several races up in the Midwest. He's trying to get by Larry Pollard. He wants to lead this thing.
Now you got to be
they
very,
got together in turn 4.
I was about to say, you got to be very careful because, again, even though it looks almost poetic on the screen, things are happening so quickly when you're in the cockpit. And in one little touch in a corner, and you both can be up against the cement.
Exactly right. He tries him underneath going in turn 3. I think he's going to get him this time.
Marcus moves Pollard up 1 lane as they come around turn number 3 and 4. Marcus seems to be handling a little better than Pollard. Let's see if he gets him this time. Yes, he darts underneath, and Dave Marcus takes over the lead. Rick Mast, by the way, has opened up about a football field advantage over this trio now. There are 3 people running up front, and Mast is hoping for a yellow flag.
That's L.D. Ottinger from down in Newport, Tennessee, the 3rd car. Extremely good runner. He's a late model sportsman champion several years ago, and he's going to try Larry Pollard going down the back straightaway now.
Well, L.D. won the late model title back in 1975 and 1976, and then he went into semi-retirement. It was never really announced. And then he came out last year because he said the division had improved to the point where he wanted to go racing again. That's L.D. Ottinger, the guy running in that orange car, 3rd in line right now.
Well, in 1975, when L.D. was running for the championship, he had to run 80 or 90 races a year. Now they only run about 30, 35 races, a schedule very similar to Grand National racing. So it is much easier today than it was 10 years ago.
Rick Mast will continue to say that as we watch Dave Marcus, who leads this race, really holding his own. He is keeping the leaders behind him and keeping a little bit of a cushion. So if anything happens, Mast is really going to be in it. But right now, there is the face-off for the lead. We've got one car that's got about a 20-car length advantage, but 2nd, 3rd, and 4th are close.
And Jack Ingram is right there in the Skull Bandit, the Iron Man. If one of those fellows in front of him slipped, he's going to be right by him.
Yeah, Ingram is mighty tough. You know, you look at Jack Ingram, maybe if you saw him in the shopping center in the street, you might not think that he is an outstanding professional racing driver, but they really don't come any better. He doesn't say all that much as we look at L.D. Ottinger, but Ingram also is a very smart racing driver. He's very good at psyching out other drivers when he's on the racetrack. He thinks quickly.
He does. Look at Brett Bodine on the outside, passing these cars on the outside.
Brett Bodine finding a groove where nobody else has so far. Looks to the high side of Jimmy Hensley, the man who led the points a couple of times this year. Hensley and Ingram are the 2 that are doing battle for the points lead. They've traded it back and forth the last month.
I tell you what, this Brett Bodine, he's up there where really and truly deserves to be. He's passing cars on the outside, and Hensley is off the pace. The 00 car of Jimmy Hensley is off the pace, and I think he has problems.
Well, that's Dale Jarrett moving around to the outside of Hensley. Hensley really slowing down. There's Charlie Luck going by. Now, these guys are running for 6th through 11th position. Charlie Luck, the VMI graduate who's trying to make a name for himself in automobile racing. There is Larry Pearson, one of David's son, and there is Brett Bodine, who runs in 7th.
He is really on the move. And while we've been watching that action, Jack Ingram has gotten by L.D. Onger and has his sight set on Larry Pollard. And what a job Larry Pollard is doing. Here's a guy who just started driving in this division this year. And he's in front of Jack Ingram, L.D. Onger, some good race cars.
And this is not an easy track to drive. Now, Pollard ran in the beginning in Canada. There is Brett Bodine again, who continues his climb toward the top. Right now, he's looking at the tailpipes and the back bumper of Larry Pearson. They are running, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th, and 8th right now. And they're looking to move up. Bodine looks like he's in a hurry. He thinks the leaders are getting away from him, Benny. I think that he's trying to do as much work as he can in the next couple of laps.
And I think he's exactly right. Dave Marcus, the leader, is pulling away. He's pulling away from Larry Pollard and all the rest of them. But I think once these good cars get through the traffic and get by themselves, I think they'll be able to at least give Dave Marcus a run for the race tonight.
Well, the number 17 car that we keep getting a glimpse of that's running at the head of this pack, there is the white car with the blue number on it. That's Kenny Burks from Charlottesville, Virginia. He runs in 5th position officially, so he's right there. He has not lost laps, and this is a good performance for Burks. The number 00 of Jimmy Hensley, as Benny mentioned earlier, slowing down, and Jack may have some details on that.
Larry, here's the situation down here in the pits. Jimmy Hensley has radioed in that his car has gotten very loose. So they're hoping for a caution flag shortly so they can make some adjustments. And I think Benny could explain to you a little better than I what sort of adjustments could be made.
Well, what they will do on a pit stop is there is bolts on top of each 4 coil springs, and they can turn those bolts and adjust the weight from one side to the other side. So right now they need to adjust the weight on that car to take some of that loose feeling away. In other words, loose, the car is trying to spin out in the corners, Larry. If the car goes in the corner and it just slips, the rear end keeps slipping. In racing terminology, that's what we call loose.
Well, obviously, there are a lot of decisions that you have to make that are permanent. Once you make the decision before you go to the racetrack or go on to start the race, you can't change them. But tightening up a car or tires, those are a couple of decisions, a couple of changes of mind that you can make.
And right now, he's the 00 Jimmy Hensley is going to simply stay out there and ride it out until he gets a caution flag and is able to go in and adjust the car then. Okay, Brett Bodine got by Larry Pearson. He's passed him. He's behind Kenny Burks right now. He is definitely on the move.
Yeah, Bodine's been in traffic, and it's so difficult to get around and get a clear track in a racetrack like this because, as we told you before, it's really so short and happens so quickly. 17, 16 seconds a lap. That's a lap that goes by, and a lot of racetracks, that's just going through one corner. But here it happens so quick, it makes it difficult to pass. Now, Bodine is running right now in 6th position. Burks is in 5th. The 4th running car of L.D. Ottinger is about a straightaway ahead. Jack Ingram continues to run in 3rd. They're chasing Larry Pollard. And I got to tell you, Benny, the big surprise that I have in this race is Marcus. Marcus is pulling away. He has about a 3-second lead over 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, but he hasn't caught Mast yet.
No, he hasn't. And, you know, Dave Marcus was a late-minute replacement in that car. He was not scheduled to drive that car when it
And Mast is in trouble coming off a turn 2. Rick Mast has gone into a long slide. Difficult to tell that if a tire went down or what. He's not lost that lap that he's worked so hard that, yes, he has. Marcus has gone by.
And the caution that he needed so badly, he caused it.
Big disappointment for Rick Mast, the man who has so many second-place finishes this year, including last week at Milwaukee when he banged fenders with Jack Ingram coming off of the 4th turn. They went at it head-to-head for the checker.
Yes, we see him. He just simply, as we early on, we watched the Brad T car get a little bit loose going in turn 1. It looks like the same thing happened to Rick Mast. He's lucky that the car didn't slide up the racetrack more, or he's very fortunate that Dave Marcus was able to slow down enough to get underneath it.
And the other thing that happened, the tail end didn't come around. He almost spun out, but it saved itself at the very last moment. So even though he went down or went back down that lap, he hasn't lost a tremendous amount of distance on the racetrack. Jack Ingram coming in, Benny.
Yes, he's changing right side tires. In late model sportsman racing, they're only able to use the one wrench. We see the fellow taking the lug nuts off the right front. Now he will put that tire back on, tighten those lug nuts, then go back and tighten the rear.
And you cannot change 4 under a yellow flag either. Jack?
There's a new variance here that was just dispensed during the driver's meeting as it applied to whether you could put tires on during a caution. In late model sportsman competition, you're supposed to undergo a 2-lap penalty if you change any tires during a caution period. But what has happened is because of this racetrack and just how tenacious it can be and how it can eat up tires, they've waived it. They've allowed them to change 1 tire on each wheel during a caution before the 150 lap mark. Now what that means for Jack Ingram, however, is it looks like he may very well change 2. He's only got 2 left for the rest of the race that he can change under caution.
Well, Jack Ingram is a crafty old veteran. I've seen so many of these late model sportsman races where you think, this cannot be Ingram's day. This can't possibly be it. He futzes around in the early stages of the race and changes this and changes that and runs 10th. But in the end, somehow he's always there.
Well, Jack Ingram realizes there is 130 laps to go in this race, that it isn't over. And meanwhile, Rick Masters going to try to get his lap back on Dave Marcus one more time.
Mass goes to the inside. He's allowed to do that on restarts before half of the race is over. Marcus may have the advantage this time. Mass is fighting for all he's worth. Now they have slower traffic coming up in front of them as they motor down the backstretch into turn number 3.
But Dave Marcus gets him. Marcus really has that car running well tonight.
Well, Jimmy Lawson had pitted during the yellow flag. He comes out, and he is only about 20 car lengths. There you see him on the left-hand side of your screen, that bright yellow car in front of the leaders. Now, this might be Mass' chance. As he and Marcus approach Lawson, if Mass makes the right decisions and kind of outguesses Lawson, he might be able to get around.
He may be able to get around, but I think that Dave Marcus is a little bit too strong for him tonight. That car is very quick.
Now, another big surprise moving up. Bodine is moving on the inside. There he is. Speaking about Brent Bodine, now this is the struggle for 4th. He moves Brooks to the high side out of the racing lane, and he looks like he may have him this time. Brett Bodine working on Kenny Brooks as they go around Brad Teague, who now is down at least 1 lap. They never got that car completely repaired, and Bodine moves into the number 4 position.
And has his eyes set on Larry Pollard. He's right on his bumper. Bodine looks like has the best car, one of the best cars. Burks is pushing. We see that smoke come off the right side of that car. Now, that's the opposite of loose. We were talking about loose a moment ago. That's the opposite. The car is what we call pushing, or when you go in the turn, it just simply won't turn. It wants to go straight ahead.
You know, Bodine is running as quick. Well, I was going to say, not even smoke coming off the tires, but that time he pushed it a little.
He pushed it just a little bit, and some smoke came up.
Yeah, when smoke starts coming off, you know that they're really leaning on the accelerator just a little harder than what they should be, given the current setup of that machine.
Exactly right. He's right on Larry Pollard's bumper.
Dave Marcus continues to lead, updating you on the Mass situation. He trails Marcus. They have a clear racetrack, nothing in front of him. Mass is down a lap there. 2nd place, Larry Pollard. 3rd place, and Bodine is going to try him on the high side.
Wow. Car must really be working very well for Bodine to go up there.
He has got to feel tremendously confident to venture up there on a high bank racetrack when the groove is remarkably in the bottom.
And passing. He didn't just go up there, he passed.
Well,
and he's driving away.
Bodine is 2nd, Pollard is 3rd, Brooks is 4th, Larry Pearson is 5th, Dale Jarrett is 6th, battling with Tommy Houston. 7th, Charlie Luck is 8th, Jimmy Hensley is 9th, and the Iron Man, Jack Ingram, is 10th, but that doesn't mean anything right now.
No, Jack will be there before the night's over.
You betcha. 80 laps have already gone by. 80 laps of 200 have been completed. Now, everybody, chances are, is going to have to stop at least once. We think that mathematically, there might be a chance that you could go the distance without stopping, but with the change of tires and other tweaking that you can do to the setup and the chassis of the car, I don't think it's a real advantage.
No, I don't, but I'll tell you one thing. I can't even think what you're saying watching that race between Larry Pearson and Kenny Burks, because it is a race.
And Tommy Houston sticking his nose into the fray. Houston there in that white car, running in 4th in line of those 4 guys, and they're really going at it.
Boy, they are going after it. Pearson got alongside Kenny Burks coming off the second corner a moment ago. Wasn't able to keep it there.
You know, the guy who's really doing a good job is Pollard, Benny. He may not be running as quick as a lot of those guys, but he has been seemingly letter perfect lap after lap. He hasn't given a thing away. You've had to work really hard to get around him.
They have had to work, and when they got alongside of him, he let them go. He didn't try to knock them out of the way.
Dave Marcus continues to lead, and Bodine is closing in. Right now, he has Mass sandwiched between himself, and there you see the 2 leaders plus Rick Mass down 1 lap. Here comes Brett Bodine. Will it be just a couple laps before he gets Dave Marcus? We'll find out after this. Another heavy-duty crash in turn number 1 while we were away, involving Brad Teague, who went into the outside retaining wall very hard. There you see the number 32 of Dale Jarrett. He was also involved, as was Larry Pearson. But without a doubt, Teague. Now watch for the red and blue car. It looks like a tire going down, Benny.
I don't know exactly what happened, but boy, oh boy, he nailed that fence head on.
Parts flying all over the place. There's Jack Ingram right in the middle of that, and it looks like that he avoided a crash. Here comes Dale Jarrett, nowhere to go. He runs over the debris. I heard a tire explode, so I think that's all that happened with Jarrett.
Yes, that's exactly right. I see some fire on Teague's car, like maybe the engine let go or something, and there is a tremendous amount of oil, although there's Brad Teague. He's walking around. They're putting him in the ambulance to get him a ride back to the pit area, but at least he is walking around.
Well, Brad had lost 2 laps, although he was running with the top 10 cars, but the car suddenly making a right turn just as he went into the corner where you normally touch the brakes and set up for that corner, but it looked like some moisture or liquid might have been underneath that race car, and he slid up the banking and made a right turn into the wall. Here comes Brett Bodine, who had just, by the way, taken over the lead, or at least he was side by side with Dave Marcus, but this may be the pit stop that everybody kind of anticipated. We are at lap number 99, almost halfway, and I kind of expected everybody to make at least one stop, and if there was an opportunity halfway, this might be it.
I think this is a good pit stop. He's going to have a little bit better tires than Jack Ingram, and I think that Jack Ingram and some of those other cars is his competition.
Boy, this has been an eventful race, the first half of it here, and all these guys stopping now under this yellow flag. All the leaders are in. This is the great equalizer. Who knows who will be the leader when this series of pit stops is over. Everybody is coming in, and everybody anticipates that this will be the last time. Although, if we have 2 more caution flags in the second 100 laps, you just never know. Crash in turn 1.
I don't know, it looks to me like it possibly...
International Raceway again, we have been slowed by a heavy-duty crash in turn 1.
I don't know, it looks to me like that possibly those 2 cars got together. That the 75 of Brad Teague and the 21 of Pearson somehow touched back at about the start-finish line.
Well, we're not at all certain whether or not Pearson, by the way, lost a lap. He may have been able to hold on to the lead lap. Well, Jack Root is down in the pit area, and maybe he can update us on at least the situation of one car that was involved in that situation.
Well, Larry, I saw something just now while we were away on break that I haven't seen in a long time, and that was a race car going backwards around the racetrack to get to the pits. That was the mode and method of transportation for Dale Jarrett, because the entire right side, right front and right rear tires were flat, and he couldn't steer. And if you take a good look at the tire here that they're bringing up over the wall, you can see just how tough it was to go around Bristol International Raceway with that Goodyear tire on your wheel.
Well, it just shreds, and there it is. 35, 36-degree banking, and if you don't have any rubber at all meeting the pavement, there's no way you're going to get around.
Well, when Dale Jarrett got his car going a moment ago, he tried to drive up the bank to get the car headed in the right direction, and it would not pull the bank with a flat tire. That's how steep the bank is here at Bristol. With the right rear tire flat, the car would not go up the bank.
Well, you know, places like Talladega and Daytona may be exciting, but I don't believe that any type of racetrack is more dramatic than a high-banked half-mile racetrack. Well, earlier tonight we saw the V6 at least start this race out and perform very well. So we had an opportunity to take a look at the V6 that Ron Bouchard's racing this week.
Way to pit road, and we're going to have a look at your accident here, Brad. If you take a look at the monitor, describe what happened.
Well, there's a pretty good crowd of us there, and I think we was 3 abreast, and Pearson was on the outside of me, and I was about a half a car length ahead of me, and I figured he'd let me go, but he tried to kind of chopped me off just a little bit, and there's 3 of us there, and there just wasn't enough room.
So that's the end of the night for Brad Teague. A tough break, but we're back to green flag racing. Thank you, Brad.
The end of the night and the start of a new life, new lease on life in this race for the Ironman Jack Ingram. We told you about 10 green flag laps ago and about 15 caution laps that second half of the race, we guarantee you the number 11 is going to be there, and guess what? There's that green and white car.
There he is right there, but the Brett Bodine and Dave Marcus cars both fitted for tires, and they had to go to the back of the field when they pulled out of the pits. Jack Ingram stopped the last caution flag, so he's in front right now. But Bodine and Dave Marcus both have better tires on their car than Jack does, so it's still going to be very interesting.
Well, the guys running up front, our initial information is that everybody is on the lead lap with the exception of Rick Mast, who is in 12th position. He is 1 lap down. He is 4th in line behind those 3 leaders. Behind Ingram is the number 08 car.
That's Butch Miller. He must have got his car started.
He sure did, and I don't know where Miller came from because I thought he might have lost a lap at the beginning of the race. They had so much trouble getting that car to fire off. It's another V6, Benny, but Miller now holding his own, and there is Bodine in 3rd position, and Bodine is putting the heat right now on the number 08 of Butch Miller. And here's Jack.
Larry, you were talking about Butch Miller. He did not lose a lap, but he came very close. They removed the air cleaner from the car during the final caution lap before the start of the race. He was at full song going down the backstretch when the lead duo took the green flag at the start-finish line. So he's passed the most cars tonight.
Well, Miller just got passed by Bodine, running in 4th position right now. Let's see, there's Bodine.
Jack Ingram is leading the race. Bodine and Miller is 3rd.
4th is Pollard. 5th is Luck. Brooks is in 6th position. L.D. Ottinger is 7th.
Tommy Houston.
Tommy Houston is in there. Then Jimmy Hensley and Marcus. Marcus is kind of quiet after this yellow flag.
Dave Marcus has a problem. I really don't know what the problem is, but he has not been able to get the car back up to speed since this caution flag. He's slowly drifting on back.
Now, this sets up the potential of a very interesting battle. You got something else on Marcus?
I think it looks like he's got a flat tire.
Well, there's 4th and 5th, Larry Pollard and Charlie Luck, 2 guys who have never victored here in the late model sportsman racing. 2 of the guys who are regulars on the late model sportsman trail. They try to make as many races as they possibly can, particularly Pollard. He's one of the few guys, I believe, who has run every one of the 18 races scheduled that have been run so far.
He's raced in 15 this year. I was looking earlier today. He has competed in 15 of the 18.
And there's Charlie Luck, the former VMI cadet, who has decided to commit full-time to automobile racing, and he runs selective races, but as many of the races as he can on the late model sportsman trail.
He's alongside Larry Pollard coming off turn 2.
Boy, they are now in heavy traffic again. 4th and 5th, remember, Pollard and Luck. Ingram continues to lead. Bodine, by the way, is right on his back bumper, and Miller is right there. It's 1, 2, 3 for the lead, and they're lapping.
They've got Robert Ingram Jr. in front of them down in Virginia Beach, and he's holding them up just enough that we're liable to see them 3 abreast here in a moment.
111 laps complete. Remember, 200 to go. Now, how's Bodine going to play this? Ingram gives him some move on the outside, but that's because Ingram's trying to set, and Ingram, takes Bodine to the wall.
There's 2 Ingrams there. We're talking about Jack Ingram right now. The red car in front is Robert Ingram.
No relation, at least no direct relation, and Robert Ingram Jr. in that orange and white car, red, orange, and white car. And here's Bodine once again trying the outside. This time, Jack Ingram doesn't have enough room to take Bodine up. They're going to be side by side down the backstretch. I think Bodine's got the advantage.
But Robert Ingram moved up the racetrack and blocked Bodine. Now Ingram tries to get underneath, coming off turn 4. Almost lost the car.
Oh, tense moment. Wow. Tense moment. Robert Ingram Jr. trying to get out of trouble, and Bodine, my Miller got. Oh, there was not enough room to get through there. We established that. Brett really gave it a shot. Oh, my goodness.
3 abreast now. Oh, me.
I don't know that
my heart can't take much of this, folks.
I don't know that experience or lack of experience made a difference there. Brett Bodine tried to make the only move he could. Benny, you caught it.
Well, Jack Ingram moves alongside Robert Ingram and moves him up the racetrack. Bodine, he slows down in front of Bodine. He started to go underneath him, but Miller was there covering the spot. And Brett Bodine simply backed off, and it's a good thing he did.
Well, the black flag has come out, apparently, for Robert Ingram Jr., and I don't know the exact reason why, because you don't black flag somebody when they're trying to hold their position.
Oh, we almost had an accident.
And we got a change in leader. The V6, Butch Miller, the ASA driver, has taken the lead. Bodine is on the outside of Ingram, and Bodine has moved into second spot. Jack Ingram has been out-snookered at his own game.
Well, that time Jack Ingram had to get out of the throttle because they could not fit three abreast.
Oh. As we told you earlier, it bears worth repeating. Things happen like lightning on this high-bank, half-mile paved racetrack in Bristol, Tennessee. What a story. Butch Miller, who couldn't even fire that car up before we went green, is now...
Trouble in turn 3.
Looks like Burks. Kenny Burks, who was running in the top 5, has skidded up and hit the outside retaining wall. I think that Ottinger was involved, so if that's the case, Burks and Ottinger were running for position in this race. Looked like an orange car that was on the inside of Kenny.
It was L.D. Ottinger. He started to pass Burks going in turn 3, and they just touched on them, and both Burks went up and backed the car into the outside retaining wall. We'll be able to see the damage on the rear of the car as it goes down the front straightaway. But I don't believe Ottinger went all the way around.
Well, Kenny Burks, there you see him moving down, trying to preserve a lap. He goes to the inside of the leader, Butch Miller. Butch Miller leads this race. Now, Kenny Burks qualified well up into the top 10. There you see him going down the backstretch, Benny, and on the inside is Ottinger. He comes down on him.
He comes down on him, yes. Ottinger had the position on him, and Kenny Burks just didn't know he was there. Moved down on the racetrack. They touched, and around they went.
Well, 120 laps have been officially completed, 80 laps to go, and there is Mr. Burks coming to a stop in the pit area. The window net is coming down. Here's a mid-race recap for you. At 100 laps, we had raced for 52 minutes. Now, the average speed was only 60 miles per hour because we had those 2 major crashes. There had been 5 different leaders, 4 lead changes. There had been 4 caution flags, and 2 of them were major. And as you can see, 39 total laps were run under caution flag. Among the leaders, of course, Jack Ingram, who had led this race. Here are the people who are out of the race. Joe Thurman dropped out very early. The first major crash on the front stretch, Joe Ruttman, Ron Bouchard, and John Linville were 3 of the 6 drivers eliminated there. The other 3 were Dickie Linville, Rodney Howard, Larry Utzman, and then Brad Teague after, about lap 100 when he lost control going into turn number 1. Now, the top 10 changed dramatically after the last series of pit stops. As a matter of fact, they're still changing. It looks like the V6 of Butch Miller is going to lead this race, but at 100 laps, it was Ingram, Miller, Bodine, Pollard, and Charlie Luck, the first 5. The second 5, 6 through 10, Burks, Pearson, Houston, Hensley, and Ottinger. Well, we're slowed again, but we'll be back with more after this. At the drop of the green flag, but it certainly was not meant to be his night. Ron Bouchard led only briefly before that massive pileup on the front stretch. Larry Pollard led for a while. Dave Marcus was dominant in the, about the 25th to 50th percentile of this race. Then Jack Ingram came along, and now Butch Miller. What do you think? Has Miller got it tonight?
It looks like he has it, I tell you that, because Bodine was, I don't know, let's ask Brett Bodine. We have a radio hookup with him. Brett Bodine, this is Benny Parsons up in the ESPN booth. Do you read us?
Yeah, I got you, Benny. Go ahead.
How strong is that V6 car in front of you?
Well, I passed him just about 15 laps ago. Unfortunately, some lap traffic messed me up, and I got in the wrong lane. He got back by me. He's pretty strong, but I think I can get him down to shoot if I can get a good run off the corner.
Do you think you have the best car out there right now, or is there a car that you're really worried about?
Well, I passed just about everything out here so far, so I think we got a pretty good shot at it. I'll tell you, you know yourself, this lap traffic out here is really hectic, and you really got to be on your toes.
That was a kind of an anxious moment coming off turn 2 a moment ago when you got 3 abreast, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sure was. Nobody wanted to give me any racing room up there on the high side. It was real close there for a second.
So you did all you could do, hit the brakes.
Exactly. That was a defensive move, you might say.
Well, we're going to give you a timely move award for that tonight, Brett. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, Benny.
Dave Marcus was among the drivers who looked dominant in this race, and Jack Arut's there.
Dave Marcus came out of the car for what was not a problem mechanically.
Well, Jackie, the car's running well, and it's a nice race car. The boys got a good race car. You know, and I'm out there risking my life, driving as hard as I can, trying to win a race. I come in for a pit stop, which should have been routine. It was under a caution. Lots of time to do it. We don't have no air wrenches. We don't have people to change a tire, and you cannot win a race that way. So I went back on the racetrack with a right rear tire that I got cut by some stuff on the racetrack, and, you know, it went flat. I thought maybe we could catch a caution. We didn't. I came back in and got out of the race car. I'm here to win the race.
And what did you say to the crew chief when you got out of the car, Dave?
I just told him I'm parking it. I mean, I just ain't going to run it.
In your career, have you ever quit a ride in the middle of a race before?
Yes, I have. I pulled the STP, Ray Nichols Engineering Plymouth, in the pits of Charlotte one day and quit because they wouldn't put tires on it.
Well, that's the story from Dave Marcus, and you can tell that he wants to race to win.
This is not yet Major League Racing, and a lot of these guys make a lot of sacrifices to run late model sportsmen, and some people just don't have the means financially, crew-wise, to do that type of thing, and it's one of the factors I think you have to deal with on a regular basis if you're going to run this semi-pro type of racing.
Well, you know, we have professionals out there. We have fellows who do nothing but race for a living. Jack Ingram, Jimmy Hensley, those guys race for a living. But most of the cars out there have another job that support the race car. And that fellow who owns the car, Markerson, is probably one of those people who simply could not afford to buy air wrenches, in fact, the hoses, the regulators, the bottles, everything that goes with it. So he felt like, what the heck, 200 laps? I don't need to change tires anyway.
Yeah.
But to win the race, you've got to change tires.
Well, let me contradict myself. I called this semi-pro racing. I think that's too unkind. It really isn't semi-pro racing. This is pro racing. It's just not on the same level as Grand Nationals financially. Well, the V6 of Butch Miller is leading this race. Brett Bodine has looked very fast, but there is Jack Ingram right there also. Who will it be? Make your call right after this. We have just gone back under green flag. Rick Mast in that two-tone blue car has moved back on the lead lap with that move.
But he Bodine gets by.
Yep, he has a couple of tigers on his tail, doesn't he?
He really does. But Bodine got by Butch Miller. That, you know, Ron Bouchard had trouble getting going with his V6, and now Butch Miller having trouble on the restart with his V6.
Well, once they get sailing, they're very quick because of that weight advantage they get, particularly on the corners. But you heard Brent say, I think I can out-horsepower this guy, and he really did. Now what Mast wants is a caution right now to get around.
Because if the caution does come out, he's able to make up that whole half mile that he's lacking.
Okay, 130 laps down. Ingram has just moved into second. There is the leader on the right-hand side of the screen, Bodine. 1 lap down, but in 10th position is Rick Mast. Now, quickly, it's Bodine, Ingram, Miller, the top 3. Then Pollard, Luck, Larry Pearson, Hensley, Ottinger, and Tommy Houston. Those guys are on the lead lap. 9 cars, 10 if you count Rick Mast. But, boy, talk about being on a vulnerable bubble of the lead lap.
He's only 1 car length away from being lapped. That's a fact.
Brett Bodine, who, by the way, is on probation right now for rough driving. He was involved in an incident with Tommy Houston in Hickory, North Carolina a couple of weeks ago, and the rules makers have cracked down him and put him on probation for unnecessary roughness, so to speak.
Maybe that's one of the reasons he backed out of those situations a moment ago. He can't afford to hit anybody right now.
You're absolutely right. Well, running in 4th position is Larry Pollard. And you talk about a guy who looks like he's been on rails. This guy has done a tremendous job, I suggest, all night long. Been in that dark maroon and purple numeral cream bottom number 98 right there in the front of the line. Pollard really gets kudos from me.
He really has. He has. No, I haven't seen the car in one bit of trouble tonight. He just runs that line lap after lap. And when those guys get in position to pass him, he lets them go.
And this is a tough place to be consistent on because so many factors change lap after lap. There are other people you're around. You're around lap traffic. We've seen on all these crashes a lot of debris spreads out over the racetrack. This is a tough place to be consistent at.
It really is. And now that's an excellent 5-car race we're looking at right now. Tommy Houston's going to try it on the outside of L.D. Yonger coming off turn 4. A tire mark ends up on the outside of Archer's car. They got together just about the start-finish line. But Houston is still on the outside.
4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. These guys are racing for position.
And Houston gets by him on the outside. Good move for Tommy.
Remember, this is a half-mile racetrack. It's high bank, but because of a lot of forces that play into it, centrifugal force and what have you, normally the best groove is on the bottom. If your car is handling, you can sneak underneath your adversary as you go around one of the corners like Houston's doing right
now. Look at this move.
Now he's got to move up. There's slower traffic. Jeff Hensley in front of him, and Houston finds the room. Really smooth, Benny.
That was a great move. Great move on Tommy Houston's part. He's disposed of two of those guys in quick fashion.
Houston is another one of those late model sportsman regulars who knows how to run this kind of race in this division. It really seems to pay off to have a lot of experience running late model sportsman cars on 200 and 300 lap races.
Look at Tommy on the outside again. Boy, I tell you what, those fellas just don't, they go up no man's land with no problem.
Houston has not won a race yet this year. He has won a lot of races in late model sportsmen in the last decade. He's among the leaders career-wise. There is Tommy going to the high side of Larry Pollard, and I can't say that was unexpected.
No, he's passed them every one on the outside with the exception of Larry Pearson. And Larry Pearson's underneath the 45 car of Charlie Luck, exiting turn 4. He's going to take that spot away, or he's trying to down in turn 1.
Well, Pearson and Houston are beginning to come on. Houston, by the way, his best finish of this year was a second place at Indianapolis.
And L.D. Yonger's trying Luck on the inside as well. Now Larry Pearson's, Charlie's Luck
in trouble.
Sideways and hits L.D. Yonger. And you know what, Larry? They saved each other.
Yeah, they did.
They got together and straightened the cars back up.
And by the way, fans, you can't plan on that. That just happens.
No, that's exactly
well, here's
right.
what you were talking about, Benny. Now watch Charlie get out of shape. Looks like it's not savable. It's not savable. He comes back down, hits LD once. Now they're both out of control, and that straightens them both up.
Straightens them both up, and away they go.
There is LD. As a matter of fact, he didn't slow down at all. Now he's moving to the high side of Pollard.
He's trying to pass Pollard.
Charlie Luck, by the way, is coming into the pits. L.D. Yonger moves into 6th position around Larry Pollard, and the cream is rising to the top. It baffles me, Benny. It truly does. The guys who run this circuit, like L.D. Yonger, like Ingram, like
Tommy Houston is off the pace going down
as I was saying. There is a veteran, but that's mechanical. That's not like Tommy Houston at all. Somehow these guys who run this series week after week really seem to know how to go fast in the last quarter, last half of the race. Tommy Houston coasting into the pits.
It looks like it's got pretty serious problems, like terminal problems.
Well, Tommy Houston, who is 3rd in the points, he, by the way, is ranked 1st in terms of the number of top 10s. 15 times this year he's finished in the top 10. He has won almost $52,000. He's ranked 4th in money's won in 1985, but he's going to have to take a back seat here tonight at Bristol. Brett Bodine continues to lead this race. He's opened up a little bit of daylight between he and Ingram, but Ingram certainly is well within striking distance. The average speed is only about 63 miles an hour, but that's because of those extensive laps we've run under caution flight. You can see how the quick dry is blowing around this racetrack. Nothing on the groove because the guys are out there running about 130 miles an hour blowing it off. But as far as the track conditions now, they look to be pretty good.
Larry, I tell you what, when they're on green flag with no traffic in front of them, it looks like Jack Ingram has closed a few car lengths to me. I think that Jack Ingram is as fast as Bodine, but now whether or not he can pass him or not, that's going to be the $64 question.
Well, it remains to be a question as to whether or not Brett will adjust his driving style because of that probation he's been placed on, but he has some own personal thoughts to the contrary. How do you handle probation for over-aggressive driving?
Well, I'm just going to go out and race the way I always race. I'm not going to change my style or anything like that. I'm just going to approach the race with a plan and hope to stick to it and hope to end up in the victory circle.
Well, he can say that. But yet, when he gets alongside that fella and he has an opportunity to hit him or not hit him, he's going to have to be awfully careful.
Well, not only that, but you know that in this division, you've got to serve because you're going to get served. You know, it's catch and catch can. It's share and share alike. Exactly. That category around here. Jack Arute is with Tommy Houston.
Tommy, you dropped out of the race. What was the problem?
Well, Jack, I reckon I didn't eat enough of those Southern biscuits this morning. No, seriously, something happened to the engine. It had been overheating, and I'd been kind of pacing myself. And we got a set of tires on the car that was matched up and good there at the end, and it started to roll along pretty good.
But now that's your second engine of the week, or actually of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, we had to change about 4:30 today, and the other engine didn't blow up. It was just weak, and this engine had some time on it. but the other engine had a vibration in it, so we chose to go with this one. And I think what happened, it probably burned a piston in it because it didn't actually come apart as far as anything flying out, but it got real hot and it just started, you know, shaking real bad and vibrating like if it dropped the valve or something. So I don't think it's anything really serious, but it's serious enough to knock us out.
Well, it's bad enough when you lose one engine, especially when they go for about $15,000. But it's really tough when you lose two, especially here at Bristol, Tennessee. Good luck to you later.
24-year-old Jimmy Lawson has come to a stop in the pit area. Jimmy was struggling the last couple laps. He was out there almost in the way a couple times.
Well, the car started smoking rather badly there just before he pitted, so I'm sure he has an engine problem along with the Tommy Houston car. But he's going back on the racetrack.
He sure is. If you were watching just before that last break, you saw that we have gone now 160 laps. There's the leader, Brett Bodine. We are now down to 6 cars on the lead lap, and Bodine continues to lead those 6, and Jack has got a report and an update on the tire situation.
You're looking at a tire that can actually show you what happens to a race car when it's not handling. This tire came off of Rick Mast's car during the last caution period. You can see where the rubber has literally been peeled up and away, and it's just blistered a tire. That's what they call blistering a tire, especially here at Bristol.
On a high-banked racetrack, Vinny, when that starts to happen, it goes quick, too.
It goes very quick, and what happened is the compound is just a little too soft for the racetrack, and it builds up so much heat in the tire that the tread starts blistering or peeling off the casing.
Now, it's not normally a severe problem in night racing as it is in day, but one other comment about night racing I'd like to get in here. If you're here at the track watching as a fan, things look like they're going faster. The cars look like they're sailing around with a lot more velocity. Does it look that way from the cockpit?
I don't know. Sitting up here in this booth looking down on these cars, it looks like they're going awfully fast. So I would have to say no. They don't look like they're going nearly that fast down
when you're sitting
down there. That's right.
Has
Butch Miller caught Jack Ingram?
He certainly has, and it's happening again. It's like Miller's tires are coming in. He seems to pick up momentum. Not only has he caught him, but he's pressuring him. Butch Miller is hoping we don't have any more caution flags. I think I got a chance of winning this. Now he's going to try the high side.
Oh, look at him.
Nobody, I mean, just a casual race driver, does not go to the outside of Jack Ingram.
Wow, he is really moving.
Now, we've seen this happen before in this race. Now he's pulling away from Ingram.
And he did it so casually. I just looked up and there he was all of a sudden.
167 laps. And
he has time.
I'll keep updating that because the laps go by so quickly. 16, 17 seconds before you know, within a couple of minutes, like 15 or 20 laps go by. So you've got to pay close attention. And as fast as Miller is going, he certainly has plenty of time.
He has plenty of time. We just may have a barn burner here at the end.
Now, no 6-cylinder has ever won a NASCAR LMS race, but they have won NASCAR North races, so it's not like this is precedent-setting. 6 cylinders are beginning to come on, but this would certainly attract a lot of attention. If Butch Miller, this ASA man, could come down here in the South and race against these guys who he admits it's like running or playing perhaps for a different sport. These guys drive differently than the ASA drivers. Miller is really coming on as we zero in on Brett Bodine. Miller is now only about 5 or 6 car lengths behind, visibly moving in, Benny.
And he really is going through the turn, which means the 100-pound advantage, weight advantage that you talked about a moment ago is really coming into play right now. It's enabled him to get through the turns just a little bit better than Bodine. And now it's down to 3 car lengths, 4 car length advantage going in turn 3.
Well, they're out there lapping about 17.6 seconds, and boy, it's happening really quick. Miller is just coming on.
There he is, right behind Bodine, down in turns 1 and 2. 2 car length advantage going down the back straightaway.
Butch Miller, he's won ASA races, but never been close in winning a NASCAR late model sportsman race. We saw him on ESPN earlier this year, but the program never really got off the ground. He didn't even get out of the starting blocks, but he is more than out of the starting blocks tonight. He is racing in to the start-finish line. He's going after that ribbon. He wants to break it. He wants to get ahead of Brett Bodine.
That's to win the race.
Boy,
Larry Pearson just passed Jack Ingram. So Ingram is dropping back. Pearson is vying for 3rd spot.
Ingram is dropping back, but that by no means takes anything away from Miller. Miller is definitely out there orbiting the speedway at a higher velocity than anybody. He is running faster than Bodine, but can he pass him? Can the handling characteristics of that V6 motor overcome the extra horsepower that Brett Bodine has?
There it is. They're bumper to bumper.
176 laps, Benny. 25 or less to go.
Isn't much time, but all he's going to take is one corner, so there's all the time in the world.
Now, since we've gone to Busch sponsorship, the races here, the late model sportsman races here at Bristol have been won by Bill Parsons back in March of '82.
He's underneath him. Oh, thought he had him that time.
Jack Ingram, Morgan Shepherd twice, Sam Arden, Darrell Waltrip. So it looks like we're definitely going to have a new winner for the first time. And Butch Miller's getting very close. He tries the inside that time. Coming out of turn number 2, he settles back. Jack, you got an update as we watch this battle.
Take a look at Butch Miller's pit crew. 4 guys, that's all that's here. 4 men on the backstretch, and they're doing battle for the lead with Jeff Bodine, who, as our count, had 9 guys just working on one side of pit wall. So there's the battle of David and Goliath unfolding on the racetrack and in the pits.
And Jack has gone all the way over on the backstretch to give us that report. Thank you, Jack. It's a long ways away. You pit on the backstretch because you draw for pit positions, and the guys who you expect to run up front get first choices, and so Miller was way down the line. Nobody expected him to do this well.
No, it would only be fitting if he were to pass Bodine on the outside, because that's where Jeff has been passing all the people he's passed all night.
Well, right now it becomes that proverbial chess game, because even though Miller is faster, he is not an incredible faster than what Brett is. And he's going to have to drive around him. He can't simply outpower him, certainly because he's giving up 2 cylinders.
That's exactly right. I think it's going to have to be a traffic situation. He's going to have to get Bodine trapped in behind a slower car and get a little advantage that way.
I'll tell you something else. For Miller, the pressure is on much more, even though he's behind Bodine, than it is on Bodine. He's got to drive through all this. Bodine might be able to use that accelerator, that throttle, to get him out of trouble or maybe to protect the position. Bodine's really got an advantage. Miller has got to be close to perfect.
He has to be, but he is really getting through the turns so well.
Boy, I'll be anxious to hear afterwards why that car just wouldn't turn on after the caution flag. You know, Benny, he came in the pits about lap 100. I imagine they loaded that thing up with fuel, and maybe just the extra weight that the fuel got, it took about 20 or 30 laps for it to go away to get down to just the optimal weight with the tires they have, the springs that they have set up to give him just the perfect handling characteristics that he's displaying now.
That could very well be. There is some traffic in front of him. L.D. Yondra and Bosco Low in front of him.
184 laps, only 16 laps to go. I say only 16 because you'll be amazed at how quickly that goes by.
Oh, trouble. Turn
Larry
2.
Pollard, who we were complimenting on earlier, has lost control coming out of turn 2. He's stopping on the backstretch. He went around 180 degrees. He corrected it. It did a reverse spin. He did not hit the wall, but Larry Pollard really ruins a very outstanding performance. There he is, kind of parking along the outside of the wall to get himself out of the way of other people. I think that this is a tremendous advantage for Bodine. The traffic now goes all the way around, and on the restarts we've seen, that little 6-cylinder just doesn't have it.
No, I think that you're exactly right. It's something that Butch Miller did not need. He didn't need a caution flag at this point.
Pollard lost a tire.
Yes, I saw the left rear.
It wouldn't surprise me because he made no contact, and that perhaps is what put Larry into a spin, and not out of this race, but he's certainly losing valuable ground. Well, with only 14 laps to go, this is the last thing in the world that Butch Miller wanted, but this might be enough to provide a win for Brett Bodine. We'll see after these words. Quickly now, we're going to go green in just a couple of flicks of the eyelashes here. 4 cars on the lead lap. Bodine, Miller, Pearson, and Jack Ingram. Only 4. 14 laps to go. Green flag. Bodine accelerates. He opted for a slow start, and he leaves in his wake the 6-cylinder of Butch Miller. And boy, what a tremendous advantage Bodine has. But Miller holding his own, Benny.
That's one of the best starts that I've seen the V6 get tonight. And it wasn't a very good one, but it was as good as I've seen tonight.
Well, the idea, Miller really had to keep the revs up. He had to almost drive with both feet, probably the brake and the accelerator, keeping those revs up. And he gets out of this restart with only about a 2-car length, make it a car length and a half deficit, and he's got a shot.
He's got a shot. They're coming down for 10 laps to go. This time, only 10 laps to go. And while we were talking about Brett Bodine and And Butch Miller, Larry Pearson have very quietly moved up right on the bumper. He's in the same lap.
Now watch these guys closely, because one little miscalculation in one corner, as rapidly as things unfold here, that's going to be it. You're not going to win this race. Now they all have to be perfect. You said that Miller had to be perfect a little earlier. Now all three of them have to be.
Have to be, exactly. Brett Bodine has the advantage because he is in front. And Larry Pearson has got to pass Butch Miller before he can get to Bodine.
192 laps this time. Fifth position, by the way, is Ottinger. He's 2 laps down. Mast is in 6th, 2 laps down. Hensley is 7th. Pollard lost 2 laps in that incident. He's in 8th position, and Charlie Luck is 9th. But it comes down to 4 people on the lead lap. Jack Ingram is showing nothing. It's between these 3 guys. Hey, this is the battle for not only the lead, but the win.
7 laps to go. Boy, they look so even, so close.
In 18, 19, 85 races, there have been 10 different winners. Brett Bodine has 1 victory. Miller has none. Larry Pearson has 2. So Miller is the only one in this trio who has not won so far this season. He just doesn't look like he's going to be able to get over the hump, Benny. He's given it quite a ride, but you can see that whenever Bodine presses that accelerator, the horses are there.
I don't know. Miller seems to be exiting turn 2 and turn 4 very well. All he's got to do is get Bodine just to slip a little bit coming off the corner. Just a little bit.
Now, we're pretty sure that there was a special ASA All-Pro race here a couple years ago that Butch Miller won, so he knows this racetrack. He may not have run that often with the LMS cars, but as far as Bristol goes, and of course a lot of the ASA racetracks are like this.
Yes, Winchester, as we mentioned ago, Winchester, Salem, racetracks a great deal like this. 3.5 laps to go.
Absolutely. Boy, this is the kind, just want to sit back and watch it, Benny.
Yes.
Can Miller do it?
Butch Miller in the white car in the middle of the screen.
197 laps. Down. 197 and a half. Down. 2.5 to go.
Didn't take him long to go by, did it?
I don't think he's readying his move. I think
Here, right, this is his move. He didn't make it.
198 laps. A white flag coming up this time. Miller's going to try the high side. Can you believe it? With the little 6-cylinder, Miller tries nothing there. No chance whatsoever against that powerful V8.
And the white flag is out. He's a half a lap to go.
Butch Miller in 2nd. Larry Pearson is in 3rd. But lap traffic there really helps out Bodine's cause.
Yes, it does, because it takes away a lane.
Checker flag coming up. Here they come off of turn number 4. Checker flag is out, and Bodine has it. Brett Bodine has won his 2nd late model sportsman race of the 1985 season. And there is Butch Miller pulling up alongside and waving the finger at Brett Bodine, saying, hey, I was close. It was a good race.
Well, I think that's probably what he said, that you did a good job, because it was a good job.
Brett, this is Larry Newber up on ESPN Control. How's it feel, buddy?
Feels super good, Larry. Super good.
That V6 really gave you a run for your money, didn't it?
Yeah, his V6 was definitely better in the handling department late in the race, but, you know, his being lighter car and everything, but we had the horsepower down the straightaway. Thanks to being our engines out at High Point.
Well, when this race started, you really expected it would happen this way. Brett right now is getting the congratulations of his crew. There's a lot of confusion down there with like 3 or 4 people trying to get inside the race car. Of course, the helmet comes off. All the wires are disconnected, and who knows who's pulling what out. But when there's the ecstasy like this in Victory Lane, all things are fair, right, Benny?
That's exactly right. And he is going to get to Victory Lane and see Jackie Root in just a few minutes.
Well, it's been a good season for Brett Bodine already. It's certainly not over yet, but when this season began, nobody really expected to see another Bodine in Victory Lane with regularity. But we might be right around the corner from that very thing happening. Well, Brett Bodine entered this race only ranked 22nd in points. But you know what, Benny? In 8 races, he had finished in the top 10 6 times. So make that 7 out of 9. He's showing some real solid consistency.
He is showing consistency, and that means that he's not getting in trouble. He's not crashing the car. Tonight, he was involved in the big crash we had early on.
Absolutely.
But it didn't eliminate him. So that means that he's driving a good, fast car and using his head as well.
And the other thing in those 8 races, even though that's 8 out of the 18 total races that have been run, he is ranked 8th in terms of the most laps led. So those races that he has competed in, he has shown strong all race long, stayed out of trouble, led a lot of laps, and finished well.
He has, tell you what, he is the car to beat in late model sportsman racing right now, the number 5 Levi Garrett car.
He also already has his Goodies invitation already for next year, and of course that's a special race that the top drivers get invited to every year. Well, we'll be back with some comments from the winner of tonight's race, Brent Bodine, after this. Bodine, who is right now experiencing the spoils of victory in victory lane.
Well, Brett Bodine, I keep calling you Jeff Bodine because you drove like Jeffrey, but Brett Bodine has scored his 2nd victory. He's here in victory lane. Brett, what more can you say? You just drove one whale of a race.
Well, you know, when we got behind there in the beginning, I was a little worried because I don't have that much experience here at Bristol, and this is a tough place to pass fast cars at. But our car just works so good on the outside lane, I could be able to get around them guys. And, you know, I was saving some for the end in case somebody like Butch would come up and run with me. But, you know, I just got to thank the guys, and we had a super good pit stop there. It got us out in front of everybody. You know, Levi Garrett, Exxon, Northwestern Security Life. It's just a great job, just a great job.
Well, early in the race, Brett, that caution that came out for that melee on the front straightaway at the start-finish line, when you got into it there, what went through your mind?
Well, I saw Ronnie hit the car up by the wall, and I just didn't think the outside lane would be clear, so I just decided I'd best lock him up and try to slide in there, not hit anything, and it worked out for the best, Jackie.
Well, a heady run for you. Congratulations to you and the entire Robert G. crew, and let's go up to Larry Newber and Benny Parsons.
The winner's circle has been brought to you by Goodyear. Goodyear tires and Goodyear service for more good years in your car. Well, believe it or not, he led almost 80 laps to make that 129 laps. He took the lead and led the rest of the way. Brett Bodine is in victory lane for the 2nd time. We'll be back after this. 1 miles per hour because of those caution flags. We had 7 different leaders. They changed the lead 6 times. There were 52 laps run under caution.
You know, Larry, as exciting as this race was tonight, we can have one just as exciting tomorrow night. The Busch 500 here on ESPN.
Well, while you're watching the top 5 finishers, tonight's race has been brought to you by Chevrolet, who invites you to see today's Chevy. Drive today's Chevy. Live today's Chevy.
Talking about how qualifying went. But this is a night race. The Bristol International Raceway, the site, the race, the Busch 500, will be run tomorrow night. So qualifying takes place on Friday night. And 33 guys are lined up with their Winston Cup Grand National cars ready to go in Busch Beer pole position qualifying. And for more on that, let's go upstairs to my colleague, Larry Newber.
Well, thank you very much, Jack. Qualifying really has become its own spectacular. There's a lot of money riding, and there is some glamour also associated with it. Joining us tonight will be Benny Parsons. Benny has been there many, many times. And, you know, glamour, yes, but for this weekend here at Bristol, even more significance.
Even more, Larry, because tonight's qualifying is going to be over about 8:30. It'll make all the 11 o'clock news. It'll make tomorrow morning's newspaper. The race tomorrow night will not be over probably until 11:15. It probably won't make the 11 o'clock news. It sure won't make Monday morning's paper. The pole winner may get more publicity than the fellow who wins the race itself.
You know, this is also a short track, and we've seen races here that have de-escalated into nothing more than slugfest. So qualifying up front, starting up front, really takes on added significance here at Bristol.
Does it ever at Bristol? There's been 49 races at Bristol. 12 of the winners have started from pole position. There's no racetrack on the Grand National Circuit that starting up front pays more than it does at Bristol. You got to be up front to avoid all the accidents and to have a chance to win the race.
Qualifying has become very important. Tonight we give you an inside glimpse at this inside working in the world of racing. Auto Racing 85 is brought to you by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. Very intriguing look at the world of speed in NASCAR Grand National Stock Car Racing from the Bristol International Speedway, Bristol, Tennessee. Well, welcome back to Bristol, Tennessee, and I don't know about everybody else, but I'm kind of excited. Qualifying was one of the most intriguing parts of automobile racing for me when I was growing up, Benny Parsons, and even though now we've grown up to Grand National Stock Car Racing, IndyCar Racing, it still captivates my imagination. I'm looking forward to it. Here is the one-lap track record here at Bristol. It's held by Harry Gant at the time of 17.4 1:04.14 seconds. It's a speed of 112.7 miles an hour. But one of the guys that we expect to challenge that, guy who might be very tough here, is with Jack Arute right now.
And that man's name is Darrell Waltrip. Darrell, Bristol, Tennessee, and the Bristol International Raceway have been home to you for a long time. You've run well. What is it going to take to sit on the pole tonight?
Well, it's going to take a really smooth lap around this racetrack. You notice cars bottom out a lot here. When they do that, that slows them down. So the ticket is to watch the ones that the sparks don't fly off from under. If 11 happens to be one of them, then it's going to have a quick lap.
Now, you've said time and time again that the pressure is upon you and your team for the last 10 races of the year. You say we've got to sit on the pole and we've got to win all the races. Do you think you can do it tonight?
I think so. We'll know in a second. Bill just went out. You know, we've got to do what Bill has already done. He said he could win on the speedways. He has. We say we can win the short tracks. That remains to be seen.
Well, gentlemen, all the cards are on the table. Let's go upstairs to you.
And can you believe it, Benny? The guy who everybody has been chasing all year long has drawn the #1 P for qualifying here tonight, Bill Elliott.
It could not be any better, Larry. He is the fellow that everybody wants to beat. He's the guy that's going to set the mark for him to beat tonight.
Well, you may think that he's at an advantage at any Grand National stock car track that he goes, but the fact of the matter is, on a short track, he's probably at a bit of a disadvantage.
Well, I don't know if he's a disadvantage because, well, the disadvantage would be with the engine purely because the Ford does not accelerate as well as the Chevrolet.
The first lap time on Bill Elliott, and he is raring to go. 17 seconds, .103, 112.19 miles an hour, just off of the track record, Benny. Very close. Second lap time on Elliott, 17.031, and Bill Elliott